Good morning, students. So this is your machine designing chapter, or this is the topic 2, that is the fastening element. Earlier we have studied about the rivet joints, that is a permanent fastening, and here we are in the welded joint. This is also a permanent fastening element. So in this chapter we are going to study one is rivet joint and another one is welded joint. This is the combination of two permanent fastening element in this topic. So first of all, welded joint. What is welded joint? See, a welded joint is a permanent joint which is obtained by the fusion of the edges of the two parts to be joined together, with or without the application of pressure and a filler material. The heat required for the fusion of the material may be obtained by burning of gas, or in case of gas welding, this is a type of welding, we are going to study this, or by an electric arc. This is also a type of welding in case of electric arc welding. The latter method is extensively used because of a greater speed of welding. Welding is extensively used in fabrication as an alternative method for casting or forging and as a replacement for bolted and riveted joints. So it is also used as a repair medium, that to reunite metal at a crack, to build up a small part that has broken off, such as a gear tooth, or to repair a worn surface such as a bearing surface. So in the overall discussion we have studied that this welding joint or this welded joint is a fastening element, and the two factors or the two important factors is one is heat and another one is pressure. The heat is mostly required in the fusion welding. What is fusion welding? We are going to study. And in this welding joint, if we are taking the two material and two plates, suppose the edges, or we have to joint those edges of that material, then welded joint is a perfect fastening element for our designing workpiece. So next is see, this slide show the videos of welding joint and a photos and a diagram of a welding joint. Here this is also a arc welding. This electric arc welding now it is a very extensively used in our daily life or basic life. This is called the torch. This one is called the torch. This is the arc and this is our designing workpiece. We have to welded this material to this. So next is our welding process. So what are those welding process? The welding process may be broadly classified into following two groups. Those are two groups according to our factor. I have already said that the welding process have the two factors, that important factors, one is heat and another one is pressure. So welding process that use heat alone, that is fusion welding, or welding process that use a combination of heat and pressure, that is called forge welding. Here in fusion welding there is no requirement of pressure here. Without pressure we can weld those materials and join together. But in the forge welding the combination of pressure and heat is both required. So the types of weldings are, one is fusion welding and another one is forge welding. So first of all, what is fusion welding? We know that what is fusion. Fusion means the temperature. So here, in case of fusion welding, the parts to be jointed are held in position while the molten metal is supplied to the joint. The molten metal may come from the parts themselves or filler material, which is normally have the composition of the parent metal. Here the filler material means also the molten metal, but we are taking the filler material separately or specifically. But the filler material should be the same composition of that parent material. The parent material means we are taking those materials which we have to join together. So the filler material or the molten metal, you can say the filler metal should be have the composition of that material also. So next point is the joint surface become plastic or even molten because of the heat. Fusion welding at 245 degrees Celsius produces permanent molecular bonds between sections. Welded joints 343 from the molten filler metal or other source. Thus, when the molten metal solidifies or fuses, the joint is formed. So, the fusion welding is also accordingly categorized or classified into three types. One is Thalmet welding, next one is gas welding, and another one is the electric arc welding. Just remember, the fusion welding are of three types. One is Thalmet welding, next is gas welding, and the other last part is our electric arc welding. So here, this is the fusion welding. This is also a type of fusion welding. Either it is Thalmet or gas welding or electric welding. You can properly see that it is a gas welding. Here, this is the fusion material. See, there is no pressure requirement in this welding process. This is metal and this is another metal. This is two plates and we have to join this edge together. So we have to weld only this. So this is called the weld bed. This is a torch, that is that would be a gas welding or your Thalmet welding or a electric arc welding. But the process of the fusion welding is like this. See, here is the filler rod. This filler rod should have the composition of this two plates metal, because we have to heat the filler rod, then the molten metal came, and the using of the molten metal, we can join these two plates by the welding joint or the electric arc welding. See, this is a small videos of the fusion welding where there is no pressure is requirement of this welding process. See, those are the welding joints and those are called this is the filler material. See, this is the filler material and specifically this is the filler material, but in this video there is no filler material we are using. Sometimes the parent metal should be a filler material themselves. See, here the molten metal comes and this joint together. But here we have to take a filler material specifically. So next is what is Thalmet welding. This is also a type of fusion welding. That was the first type of fusion welding, that is called Thalmet welding. So in Thalmet welding, a mixture of iron oxide and aluminum called thermite is ignited and the iron oxide is reduced to the molten metal. Here the thermite means we have to mean it, that is a molten metal or a filler material. The thermite means a filler material or a molten metal. So the molten iron is poured into a mold made around the joint and fuses with the parts to be welded. A major advantage of the Thalmet welding is that all parts of weld section are molten at the same time and the weld cools almost uniformly. This results in a minimum problem with residual stresses.